Welcome back to From the Shed End. Welcome back to another episode of the podcast. If you're here on YouTube as well, thanks for joining. Before we get into anything, as always, please subscribe if you're on YouTube. The Linktree link is in the description. And also, if you're on the audio version of the podcast, again, hit that Linktree link, notification bell, all of that good stuff as well. Theo, how you doing?
I'm good, yeah. Got my office Christmas party tonight, so I'm glad we're recording this today and not tomorrow.
Yeah.
I'm expecting to be very, very hungover tomorrow morning and probably all throughout the day. But yeah, always in a good mood when you pick up 6 points the previous week, and you've got two more games to look forward to this week. But yeah, looking forward to the weekend, Conference League tomorrow and Premier League on Sunday. How are you doing?
Yeah, no, I'm good. I'm good, like you know. Obviously no Christmas party for me, but no, I'm good. I'm happy. Chelsea's put us back in a good spirit, in a good place. I think I said that last week, but yeah, I'm good. It's good to actually talk some positivity about Chelsea, which we haven't been able to do for much of the time that we've had over the last 18 to 2 years. But no, I'm good. I'm looking forward to... I tell you what, I'm going to tell a lie. I'm not looking forward to this game. I haven't got that excitement that I got before the Spurs game. No discredit to Astana or Heidenheim in the last round of the Conference League, but it just doesn't... I think I said to you, the Heidenheim game felt like a bit like a pre-season friendly. You just didn't have that sort of feel of a competitive match for us, but not, you know, we've got to go through the motions to hopefully try and get to the final. But we missed off one key topic last week, my fault, around your little adventure out in London. Let's get straight into that before we get into anything else for the podcast. So, and hopefully you've still got the prize that you won very near you as well that you can show everyone.
Yeah, I've got it under my desk. I'll show that in a bit. But yeah, I got invited. If you follow the socials, you might have seen it last week. Both yourself and myself, we got invited to the Club Legacy pop-up store in Soho, London last week as being Chelsea content creators and podcast recorders. We got invited to the opening night, which was on, I believe it was last Tuesday. James, who's the kind of organizer and founder, very kindly invited us both, and it was an absolutely brilliant night. I got to meet some other Chelsea content creators, some I'd met before, some I was meeting for the first time. And it was always nice to just have a little beer and talk everything Chelsea related. But in terms of Club Legacy themselves, they do some really, really cool kind of football merchandise. And it's kind of like bit of a street touch, I would say. So there's like some really cool cross collaborations with some NBA players, most recently Luka Modric from Real Madrid. And then I think the kind of main purpose of the night was to introduce the Eden Hazard kind of collaboration. So there was some really cool kind of Eden Hazard limited edition signed cards, some really cool Eden Hazard footballs as well as some kind of t-shirts that they created purposely for Chelsea and Eden Hazard. Yeah, absolutely really enjoyed going. And if you're kind of in London and you're kind of wanting to check out the pop-up store and all of the kind of collectibles and merch they have, it's 52 Brewer Street in Soho. I'm sure we'll put the details in the description, but I've been sharing it quite frequently on the socials as well. And they're kind of running on that site until the 22nd of December. So you've got a couple more weeks to go check them out, I believe. But definitely recommend kind of if you're a football fan or even if you're into your fashion, clothing and kind of football memorabilia and collectibles, really recommend going. I think I'm invited to a second night there, more focused around Eden Hazard than Chelsea this time, which I'm really looking forward to. Yeah. But I think the highlight of the night was they did a little quiz towards the end with all the Chelsea kind of fans and content creators. 5 questions focused around kind of Chelsea, Cole Palmer, Eden Hazard. And obviously you get points for answering the right question, but you also get points for answering the quickest as well.
Okay.
I do want to ask you these 5 questions in a bit, but before I kind of go through those questions, I'll quickly show the prize. It's in a really nice looking box right now.
Yeah.
But it's one of those Eden Hazard match balls I spoke about. Probably the webcam right now probably doesn't do it justice, but there's so many little hidden details. I posted a reel on the Instagram yesterday. But yeah, it's absolutely packed with kind of like Eden Hazard.
Yeah, it's decent.
On Stamford Bridge. I think I'll quickly show my favorite one. I think it's that Garden of Eden.
Oh yeah, I was about to say that's the one that stands out.
Really like it, and I'll definitely not be taking this to the park on my father's side. It'll be well displayed on a shelf in my bedroom, I'm sure. But with no further ado, because these questions weren't straightforward.
Here we go.
Test your
Here we
Chelsea
go.
knowledge. And
Can I just say before we do this, I've had a very stressful morning, so my mind's not always with it. But go on, let's go.
It sounds like the excuses are already coming. Yeah, but in your defense, bear in mind there were some really big Chelsea kind of fans and content creators, and a lot of them struggled with these questions.
Yeah.
But first question out of 5 was, how many goals and assists does Hazard have for Chelsea? And it is multiple choice.
Okay, let's go multiple choice.
You've got 178, 195, 215, or 238.
I was going to say, it's got to be more than 200. So, how many goals?
Goals and assists combined.
Oh, combined. Okay.
Yeah.
What was the first one?
One's 178, 195, 215, and then 238.
Oh, no, I'm going to go for the first one.
178. You're not far off. It was actually 195. It was option B. But yeah, I think a lot of people probably went above the 200s, but the correct answer is 195 goals and assists during his time at Chelsea. I'm going to skip the second one because it was like matching seasons to captains. And I feel like
you need
if you took your time, you could probably all do this one. But obviously you've got John Terry, Azpilicueta, a combination of John Terry and Cahill and Reece James, and you have to kind of match them to the season.
Yeah.
This one was a tricky one. This one fooled a lot of people. But question 3 was, who scored the most goals for Chelsea between 2010 and 2020? And
Jesus.
You've got 5 options here. You've got Willian, Torres, Palmer, Mata, and Diego Costa.
I feel like it's either Mata or Costa.
Yeah, I mean 2010 to 2020, so that automatically rules out one guy, I believe.
Yeah, it narrows it down a little bit, but can't be Torres. It's got to be Costa. It has to be Costa, surely.
I think longevity as well.
Oh no, who was the first guy? Who was the first one?
Willian was the first one.
Willian. Okay. And the second guy was
Torres. You've got Palmer, Mata.
Oh, so it's not Palmer. It's not Torres. It could be Willian. What I'm trying to do is see your facial reactions by going to have to throw a poker face on. I'm going to go for Willian. I am going to go for Willian.
Yeah, I'm going to try to put that poker face on now. But yeah, you got that correct. It is Willian.
That must be close though between the three of them.
It must be, but the way kind of I figured this one out is I thought Willian was there from 2013 to 2020, whereas Torres obviously struggled a bit with goals.
Yeah.
Mata only stayed 2.5 seasons. Palmer signed after 2020.
And Costa
only stayed 3 seasons and probably had more goals. He had a decent amount of goals, but I just thought longevity in a way.
Had to be Willian. Yeah, of course.
It was Willian. So I think you'd be losing points for the answering quickly, but you are getting them right at least now. Tricky one again. What was the date Palmer signed for Chelsea?
Oh, come on.
31st of August 2024, 17th of June 2023, 1st of September 2023, 21st of August 2023, or 28th of July 2024.
I feel like it was quite late into I think it was so it's one of the August ones. So I'm going to go for, sorry, what was the second August date?
So you've got 2 dates in 2020, 3 dates in 2023 and 2 dates in 2024. So the 2024 ones are the 31st of August and 28th of July.
It's got to be 2023, no?
Yeah.
So it's got to be.
That one, yeah. So you've got 17th of June, 1st of September, 21st of August.
Oh, 21st of August. I feel like it was.
Incorrect. It was the 1st of September.
I knew it was really late. I knew it was late into like the window. I thought it was in August though.
Yeah, because I think we signed him literally like the day before we played. I want to say, was it Aston Villa or Bournemouth?
Yeah, it was a weird game.
But yeah, it was deadline day, I think, which now turns out to be like in the first day of September.
Of course.
But yeah, that one fooled a lot of people as well. And obviously, if you're answering quickly, I think a few people put.
Which is what I'm trying to do. That's what I'm trying to do here. I know it doesn't look like that, but I am. I'm trying to do it as quickly as possible. and work it out in my
All
head.
right. Final question. How much did Eden Hazard cost for Chelsea? And this was when he signed in 2012. So was it 45 million, 32 million, 28 million, or 37 million?
I feel like it was 32.
Correct.
Yeah, it was 32. I remember that. That one I do remember because it always rings in my head what a bargain we got for at the time as well. So,
but yeah, I always just pictured that tweet he put up, I'm signing for the champions of Europe with the 32 million kind of price tag. And no one really, a big price at the time. Nowadays, it just seems like an absolute bargain.
Yeah, no, true. That was really difficult. No wonder you're parading the ball around because it's not as easy as people think, especially if you've got like fingers at the pulses as well, and you've got to be sort of, fastest finger first. It's a pressured environment, isn't it? So yeah, well done for getting the ball, I think is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
It's not as
pretty
easy.
chuffed with it, and it always feels a bit nice as well when you earn these prizes. That's for sure.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, anyone who wants to do that, let's throw your scores. And be honest as well. Throw your scores. If you're watching this afterwards, throw your scores in the chat, in the comment section. Let us know what you got as well, and don't forget to subscribe. Let's get involved in other news around Chelsea, because Sunday was a very stressful Sunday. Obviously playing Tottenham is always a joyous occasion. There's always some sort of controversy. This one didn't fail to do that as well, with Anthony Taylor being in charge. But we did come back from 2-0 down to beat Spurs 4-3, which I think is quite flattering from Spurs' perspective. I don't think they deserved their last goal. We were a bit sloppy defensively for all three of them. But what was your thoughts? There's a lot to unpick. Obviously, the 2 red cards that were never given for each side, and Cucurella throwing his boots in the bin. There's been a lot of things happening throughout that game. But what was your thoughts on the overall assessment of our performance against Spurs?
Yeah, it kind of reminded me of the same fixture last season, where I probably went through every single emotion during those 90 minutes, and I just felt kind of physically and mentally drained by the end of it. But yeah, luckily we came out of it with the 3 points. I do think over the 90 minutes we were the better team, the more organised team as well. I think the first 20 minutes were an absolute disaster. Obviously, when Cucurella slips twice, allowing both Solanke and then Kuleveski to score. I do think Cucurella slips, but even after the slips, I think both goals were avoidable. I think the first one, it's a mix of Colwill and Robert Sanchez being in a bit of no man's land. And then the second one after the slip was more kind of just allowing Kuleveski a bit too much space and not closing him down. And maybe Sanchez potentially could have done better. I just felt like there was not enough speed on that ball to kind of beat him from that distance as well. But yeah, that just felt like, oh damn, like Spurs are actually like out here to get the win now. And then I really felt like if we were going to kind of salvage something back, we needed a goal very shortly after conceding the second. And luckily we got that through a brilliant goal from Jadon Sancho. And that was more like the Jadon Sancho I wanted to see, the one that we were hoping to get from Borussia Dortmund and not from Manchester United, because really good finish. And I think one thing that a lot of I think Maresca mentioned it, is he wants him to be a bit more selfish. He wants him to shoot more, and that's what he did. And he's clearly got it in his locker to score from those type of ranges. I'll quickly talk about the 2 potential red cards that I think none of them got yellows, or maybe Kuleveski got a yellow and Lavia and Caicedo didn't. I can't really remember, but either way, both players stayed on the pitch. I'll talk about the Caicedo one first. I felt like, because I know that you feel like this is a red, and we were very lucky to avoid it. I think it's an orange card, and I'll explain why. I know that doesn't exist in football terms, but I think it's like there's that thin line between sometimes what's a yellow and what's a red. I just think, like, if you look at a still image, it doesn't do justice. But if you look at it real time, he luckily doesn't plant his foot into I forgot who it is. Is it was it
Sarr or Basuma?
Yeah,
one of the 2.
I think one of the 2 that gave away the penalties. That's for sure. And then, but if you look at it in real time, it's not that kind of planting action where he kind of digs his foot into his shin or ankle, but instead it's more of like a swing or a kick, which is very malicious because he's kicking essentially the player's shin, which is never nice to see. But I think the still image doesn't know justice, whereas if probably what VAR saw was the footage in real time, then the explanation was there was not enough excessive force. So he luckily got away with that one. Whereas for me, the Kulusevski elbow on Lavia, you just can't do that. You just can't do that. And it's not so much like he's running and accidentally his elbow catches him. He's running towards Lavia
with
with
his
his
elbow.
elbow pointing towards his head. So he clearly knows what he's doing. And obviously, at Lavia at first, I feel like his reaction slightly delayed, but then you can understand why, because when you get a knock to the head, it's not something you feel straight away until maybe you try to kind of run it off. And then he posted that image on Instagram where he's got a big cut on the side of his head.
Yeah.
Then you obviously substituted at halftime, whether the substitution was because he was on a yellow or because of the head injury, I'm not sure. But Lavia was fantastic, by the way, in that first 45. Brilliant. So it's really good to see him finally get a good run of games and be on the pitch. I thought Caicedo too was fantastic, even though maybe he could have got his marching orders.
Yeah.
But yeah, overall, really, really pleased. We'll talk about the second half in a bit as well. But what did you make of the two potential red cards?
I still think they were both reds. I think I always, and I get your point, you know, the still image sometimes makes things look a lot worse than they are. And, you know, sometimes there's always, you got to think about, is there intent as well to try and harm the player, or are you actually genuinely going for the ball? But I think had that been the other way around, and that was, I don't know, Sarr or Basuma on Caicedo, or another player in another team doing that to a Chelsea player, I think I'd be wanting a red card for it, because I think it's just high and dangerous. The foot wasn't as high as we've seen it for other players being sent off before, but there was still no contact with the ball, but more contact with the player. And I always think, you know, those kind of tackles can lead to, you know, leg breaks or whatever, and, you know, can damage a player. So I always think from either perspective, whether they're Chelsea players or not, you know, I think those are reds. The second one for me, the fact that Anthony Tate is in clear view of this incident and still thinks it's not. I can't remember if did he go to VAR, because he didn't get booked. Kulusevski, he didn't get a yellow card. Neither of them got yellow cards for it.
I can't remember if he went to VAR or not. But one thing I'll say about the Caicedo one is he almost pretends to be injured himself after, which often means he is guilty.
I did like that about him. He stayed down for a while just to make sure, you know, rubbing his ankle like it was, yeah. But I think he was lucky. But yeah, Kulusevski for me is a red card. You know, you can see the aftermath of the sort of cut to Lavia's head, and I think it was a mixture of potential concussion, potential just keeping him off the pitch because of the injury, or because, like you said, he was on the yellow card as well. But I just think of all those, it's not good enough. There was a separate game the Saturday, I think it was Man City Crystal Palace, and Rico Lewis was sent off for a challenge on Trevor Chalobah that I didn't think was deemed as a second yellow. And it just goes back to that original point that we keep saying on here around consistency, around refereeing and VAR, and it's just it's a constant cycle now of things just not happening the same way that they should be throughout the football, throughout the Premier League. So yeah, I mean, we were lucky, I thought. But yeah, Kulusevski should have been sent off 100%. What I do want to say about Caicedo is I think he done well to fill in at right back, but he was very exposed at times in that position, and I thought he played a lot more better in his natural position when Gusto came on second half. But like you said, again, touching on Kokore's points as well around the slips. I mean, that's his own fault, his own error. You know, you warm up, you have a pre-warm up, you test out what boots you want to wear before kickoff, and once is a mistake, twice is his own fault. You know, I can't. And the thing is, those two mistakes lead to goals. So it's not like, you know, they had chances and they didn't come to a nothing. They did. You know, like you said, for me, Colwell should do a lot better for the first one. Maybe Sanchez as well, but Sanchez for the second one, he has to save that. He has to save that second one because it's just too easy. I wanted to ask you before we get to the second half around Colwell. And I feel like he's the one that's trusted the most by Enzo Maresca in that back line in terms of centre-backs anyway. Do you think, and I think I know the answer to this, but do you think we need another more experienced, another Thiago Silva alongside Levi Colwell? Because he is prone to make a lot of mistakes, and he is, you know, Sunday's a prime example. He allows Solanke to get ahead of him to win the ball. I think if he's got someone more mature alongside him, those kind of things don't happen.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm all in favour of signing these kind of mature, more experienced players that can offer a bit of insight and kind of ball knowledge to the younger players. Clearly, that's not the approach now that the new kind of blue coat ownership wants to go down. They rather sign these young players on long contracts. Tossin, I still think is a relatively Premier League experienced player who can maybe offer like a bit of knowledge around football alongside maybe Colwell. But with Bajashil, Disasi, kind of futures up in the air, and Fofana's injury record, it might make sense. I think alongside maybe a goalkeeper next summer to potentially look into signing a new centre back.
Yeah.
I know we were really both wanted Matt Hummels in the summer on a free before he signed for AS Roma, but yeah, it just seems like those kind of targets now are quite unrealistic under the new ownership.
Yeah, no, it's a good shout. I just think with Colwell, I can see him being the best out of the bunch of centre backs we've got, but I do think he needs someone alongside him. I said yesterday to someone, Kanate for Liverpool has done really well because he's had someone like Virgil van Dijk alongside him, and sometimes you need another player that can cover up your mistakes. And Colwell's the one I think that we're looking to be the one that covers up people's mistakes. But he's going to make a lot more himself at the same time as well. So, but yeah, no, I agree. I don't think Blue Co are looking to bring in anyone of that age group to support our defenders anyway. So probably a pointless question. But just the second half, I felt like Maresca got those, the team in the dressing room and gave them a bit of a dressing down. Obviously wasn't happy with the first half performance, and like you said, Sancho's goal just before that sort of gave us a bit of momentum coming out of the second half, but it was a totally different game second half for us. We definitely shifted the momentum.
Absolutely, yeah. I think one thing I'd kind of point out in the first half is, which we spoke about maybe I think in the previous episode, that maybe Palmer sometimes in these big games doesn't actually like play like the Cole Palmer we usually want to see, or want to see those performances from against the top six, or traditional top six at least. And I said that again to my mates when I was watching the game in the first half, and then somehow in the second half he just switches on, and I think he was the real game changer. He sets up, he wins the penalty. He scores a penalty from Caicedo, who wins it for him.
Yeah.
He sets up Enzo Fernandez for the third goal, which was absolutely brilliant, by the way. And then he wins the penalty for the fourth goal, and yeah, the composure and the cheekiness of that fourth penalty or fourth goal to Panenka it down. Fraser Forster, it was absolutely brilliant. But I think in his kind of post-match conference or interview, he says like, Fraser Forster's a tall keeper. I knew that he'd dive to a side, and all I had to do was put it down the middle. I think he did the same one against Burnley last season in the Premier League. So. And then I think Chelsea fans who are listening to this, they might have watched the Twitter video that Chelsea put out of all 12 of Cole Palmer's penalties, and he scored all 12 of them. And I think he's the only player now to have done that, because I think Yaya Toure only scored 11 out of 11.
Yep.
So yeah, it's a new Premier League record from him. And I was just watching some of these penalties. They're not just like, beats the keeper and goes the other side. They're just perfectly placed past the keeper's kind of outstretched arm. And even the same fixture last season, I think the penalty that stood out for me was the one against Vicario, where it hits the post and then goes in.
Yeah.
And Vicario is almost at full stretch. So yeah, it's the way he's taking these penalties and the kind of composure and the lack of nerves that he shows is absolutely brilliant. But yeah, second half was absolutely brilliant. I'm really pleased for it. I think there were a few moments, maybe like the third goal we saw from Tottenham, maybe we switched off slightly and there was a bit of complacency. And even at other times when I think Pedro Neto thinks someone's offside, and then he lets Son kind of get through. He wasn't offside, and luckily, Son puts it wide from Sanchez. But that's Son from 3 or 4 seasons ago. I think that's 3-3, and then we're struggling, or Tottenham kind of score, and it's going to be a bit of more of a nervy finish. But yeah, brilliant second half, and it's always nice to pick up 3 points at 3-point lane, as always.
It is. I mean, we had to work for it slightly, but I think, at the end of the day, we got the result. We kept, I think, again, we haven't really spoken about it, but the results again went our favour. Look at Arsenal dropping points. I was going to mention United, but we can't even see or hear them at the moment. But, the likes of Liverpool not playing as well, Arsenal dropping points. I'm not saying it helped us, and it's not. I still don't think we're anywhere near a title, contending for the title at all. But I just think whilst you're in that position, you're giving yourself a good amount of reason to definitely try and qualify for the Champions League next season if we can maintain and win. We've got some really, Brentford again is going to be a difficult game at the weekend, but we've got some really tough fixtures coming up. Everton away very soon as well. But I was impressed with us. I thought, I know we won that fixture last season. I think that was the 9-men Spurs, wasn't it? I think last season. Or was that the season before last? I can't remember, where they had 9 men.
Yeah, last season.
So I know we beat them 9 men, but I think those kind of games last season we would have gone on to lose if we were 2-0 down. I don't see us coming back from that. So Maresca's got us playing some brilliant football. I just think we need to sort out our defensive side of things, which just isn't. It's just still not clicking, defensively, which worries me.
Yeah, there's still some lapses in concentration in defence, and at times we do look vulnerable. We kept a clean sheet against Villa. We did well to kind of not concede many against Southampton, but I guess that's expected. But maybe against these better opposition, we might look a bit more leaky. That's why I do worry for the Club World Cup, particularly if we do get to the knockout stages where we play the likes of Atletico Madrid, Real Madrid, Borussia Dortmund, Bayern Munich. Yeah. It might be a lot trickier. And we've got some tough fixtures to come. We know that Brentford on Sunday, I think they're the team who have scored the most goals at home, at least in the Premier League. So that's going to be very hard kind of trying to contain the likes of Mbumo, Vista, Kevin Schade as well. But it's something we definitely need to work on. I still feel like Maresca is still experimenting with his backline, at times playing Caicedo as the inverted fullback, thinking of times of playing Malo Gusto. I don't think he's fully decided yet on a centre-back partnership yet. It might be quite interesting to see who he sends out to Kazakhstan tomorrow. And I guess whoever doesn't go to Kazakhstan will be the 2 starting centre-backs on Sunday, but I'm expecting it to be Bajashil and Colwell. But I think defence, goalkeeper is still a big part of our kind of lineup or kind of squad we need to maybe look to improve.
100%. You know what I think already about the goalkeeper situation, so I'm not going to talk too much, which we spoke about before we joined the live stream. But Josh Achiampong is close to signing a new contract. This was confirmed not just by Simon Johnson of The Athletic, but also as part of Enzo Maresca's press conference earlier on this morning. So he did go on to say, what did he go on to say? With Josh, it's all quite clear. We all love Josh. The club loves Josh. I love Josh. And we're trying to find an agreement. We are close. We are almost there. We'll see. That kind of tells us that the deal is almost done. I think his contract runs out 2026, is it? I think. So we need to get it nailed down. Contract runs out 2026. We know there's a lot of clubs, sniffing around Achiampong at the moment. But this is really good news for us in terms of nailing down. Just mentioned around Gusto. Reece James is out injured. This looks like one of those ones that we want to try and get over the line to make sure we keep him at Chelsea.
Absolutely. I think he's a fantastic player. I think we haven't seen much of him in the first team yet, but Chelsea fans that would have followed the kind of development squad or the under-21s would know he's a real talent. And for those who haven't really followed the youth squad, they'll know that he's a real talent just from the clubs that are linked to his name. The likes of Bayern Munich, Liverpool, Paris, and I think Real Madrid even as well. So it seems like it's kind of makes sense for us to try to get him to a new contract and give him some game time in the cup competitions and hopefully in Kazakhstan tomorrow as well.
Yeah, well, he looks like he's going to be starting. It says here that, and this is what Maresca did say very loosely, that he's set to start his first senior game for the club against Astana tomorrow at 3:30, which is such a strange kickoff time. It almost feels like we are definitely in the Conference League era of football with 3:30 kickoffs. But no, I'm really, really happy for Josh Achiampong. He's one of those players for me. Like you just said, some of the players that have been linked, some of the clubs that have been linked with him, it's just, we've got to nail him down and try and bring him into the squad gradually as well. I like him, so I want to see him from the very start tomorrow. Let's keep on the transfer radar for now, because I think some news broke yesterday that Carney Chukwuemeka is set to leave the club in the January winter window as well, which makes sense. I'm hoping it's a loan. I'm assuming it's going to be a loan, not a sale. But what's your thoughts on that? Is that something that we've kind of spoken about previously, that he needs a bit more experience? He's not getting the game time at Chelsea. This hopefully will give him some minutes and we can assess him in the summer.
I think he's ready. I personally think he's a fantastic player, and even last season when he had a brilliant pre-season under Pochettino, started the opener against Liverpool, scored on the second game against West Ham, then was very unfortunate to get injured. But I feel like after that goal against West Ham, the stars were aligned for him to become a Chelsea star. And it felt like he was really going to be given a kind of a run in the team. It felt like he was going to be kind of the face, or at least in the core of the kind of young squad we were trying to build. But unfortunately, I think because of that injury, somehow got replaced with like a lot of players that play in a similar position: Joao Felix, Cole Palmer, Mudryk, and Cuckoo. And now he's found himself probably fourth or fifth choice. And the only kind of game time he's gotten so far this season has been, I think, in the League Cup against Barrow and in the Conference League against Panathinaikos and Heidenheim when we were already 4-1 or 2-0 up. So it's very, very unfortunate for him. But just given how talented and bright his future is, you just really hope somehow he can get some game time and play his football elsewhere and then prove to Chelsea that they made the wrong decision, maybe not giving him the required game time he deserved. And I think Milan, if you look at the track record they've had now recently, taking players from Chelsea, the likes of particularly English players, Loftus-Cheek, Tomori, I think Tammy Abraham's out there now.
Yeah.
And they recently signed, I think, Giroud and even Pulisic from Chelsea as well. So they do have a good relationship with us. So I think seeing Carney Chukwuemeka over to loan or a sale to AC Milan in January would be fantastic for, I think, all parties involved. I feel like Milan might be reluctant maybe to make it permanent in January, but it could be like Tomori, like a loan, and then with an option to make it permanent in the summer. But yeah, like I said, a really, really bright player, and it's just almost feels a bit like a waste that he's just not even on the bench. He's just in the squad, but not really getting game time. And something else I saw that I think might contribute to this is I think he's on 170 or 180,000 pounds a week. So he's one of the top earners at the club, which could also be why we want to get him off the wage bill and maybe try to force him to go elsewhere.
Yeah, I did read that as well, and I think it was on Gary Lineker, his podcast as well. I'm sure they mentioned it somewhere, but yeah, obviously FFP is still a thing. It's not just magically gone away. I'm always I'm not on the fence with Carney Chukwuemeka, but I hope it's a loan. I think is what I'm going to assess that by saying is I think it's hopefully going to be a loan without the option to buy or mandatory fee at the end of it, because I think he's still got a role to play at Chelsea. I don't know how big of a role that is, but it's a shame that he hasn't really been given the opportunities that I think he was probably sold at the very start of his time at Chelsea. He was going to be a bit more involved. Obviously, a lot of things happened before and after his signature at Chelsea, but it is a bit of a shame because he's a talented player, a really talented player. I just think there's a lot of players ahead of him that we've brought in that are getting a nod. But the Serie A is a really good league. Like you just reeled off a lot of the players that we've had at Chelsea that are now over there. It's a really good league to go and earn yourself the respect to come back, and if it's not at Chelsea, play somewhere else in and amongst Europe's elite. So, but I don't want him to go. I really don't. Kiernan Dewsbury-Hall was a bit of a shock for me though, because there's been reports Aston Villa are heavily linked with him. They're willing to spend 30 million for his signature. One that's never really lit up a Chelsea squad when he's been given the opportunities in the Conference League to really do anything. But again, it's just maybe just to get him off the books and cash in and get a bit of money for him.
Yeah, this was a bit of a confusing signing to start off with last summer. I think it was alongside Tosin, it was the first one we made. So maybe at the time, maybe we were thinking like, all right, he's Maresca's man. He comes, Maresca's signing for Chelsea. He wants to bring a Leicester player. It makes sense. He's a good box-to-box midfielder. He's a good goal scorer as well. But at the same time, when you think Chelsea, just no disrespect to Kieran Dewsbury-Hall, but you don't really think like he's the type of profile of player that will light up, Chelsea and get us into the top four or kind of get a silverware. And again, there's no disrespect to him and to Leicester, but I think he's a top player at a club like Leicester.
Yeah.
But at Chelsea, I think he's more of like a rotation kind of rotational kind of squad player, perhaps. And I think as well, something a bit like Joao Felix, the only reason we signed him, it felt like somehow we're trying to like help out Leicester financially as well, maybe. I'm not sure there was something to do with that, because I think they really needed to sell players to raise money. And then obviously Lavia's fit again now, and I feel like now he's probably fourth choice behind Enzo, behind Lavia, and behind Caicedo in midfield. We've
Yeah.
obviously got Cesare Casade, who's also a midfielder who can play that position. Chukwuemeka at times, who's played there. So it just feels like his game time's going to be very limited, and poor guy hasn't even been able to make the Premier League benches at times, given how much depth we have. I don't think January is the right time to maybe loan him, but I think next summer, if we've got kind of core players that we want to take into hopefully the Champions League squad, and his name's not there, then maybe we should consider an exit then. But I do think there's a lot of football still to play, particularly Conference League knockouts, FA Cup in January. There will be more injuries over the next couple of months due to the congested fixtures. So I'd rather we retain him for now. But yeah, next summer, I feel like serious question marks need to be asked about his future at the club.
No, I'd agree. I think he's only had 55 minutes of Premier League football so far this season. I think that's 5 bench. He's been coming off the bench and being involved from a substitutions perspective. So I think I think you just summed it up really well. I think he's a very good player, but at a particular level. And I don't think this is the level for him. I really don't. I mean, Villa are financially struggling anyway, so I would be surprised if they come in for a £30 million transfer in January. I think if it's going to be anything, it would be a loan, maybe with that option to purchase at the end of the loan deal. But and look, I mean, they've had a couple of injuries themselves, and also they're still, I think, within the Champions League qualifying places at the moment. So they might need to add some additions to that. Like you just said about squad rotation for us, they'll need to do the same for their Champions League games and obviously their fixture congestion as well. So I like Kiernan Dewsbury-Hall, but I also agree with you. The Conference League is still something we can't turn our nose up at, and I think he's very good in those fixtures. So I'd like to see him stay at least to the end of the season, and then hopefully we can work out something that's good for the player and the club as well. But it was a very strange move, really strange. Really, really strange.
Yeah. I've even seen his kind of like Leicester fans ask for the club to re-sign him on loan or permanently as well. But yeah, like we said, I think top player at maybe like a lower league team, but Chelsea
like a Villa.
Doesn't really fit the bill. Yeah, to be fair, Villa I think now kind of mid-table, and they probably need a bit more depth in the Champions League.
Yeah,
but they've got Super Ross Barkley scoring winners for them.
I know.
Champions
League. Who would have thought it? I mean, the guy that was almost down and out when he was at Chelsea, went on rediscovered himself at Luton, and now he's scoring against RB Leipzig and doing wonders there. So, but yeah, no, we'll have to see how that pans out for both of those players, and I'm sure there'll be a couple more outs than there is ins for us over the winter transfer window. But let's turn our attention to tomorrow, 3:30 kickoff. The school bells will probably still be ringing around the country somewhere. I can't believe we're playing at 3:30. But Astana, I think there's a 5-hour time difference between the UK and Kazakhstan. So hence the 3:30 kickoff for those that were wondering. This is a time to rest a lot of players, I believe. What's your thoughts going into the game? And Maresca had his press conference this morning, but what's your thoughts in terms of who you think may start, get the nod, and what are you? I mean, not against Astana's team, but what are your expectations from a Chelsea perspective in going into this game?
Yeah, I think if we remember back to when we found out who our opponents were in the Conference League, we both kind of looked at each other and said, let's just hope we kind of win all our games, and then by the time we play Astana, we can send out the youth players to face them, and that's pretty much exactly what's happened. We've got a 100% record in the Conference League. We're on maximum points. I think just Legia Warsaw are level with us with I think is it 12 points? Yeah, 12 points.
Yeah.
And they've got a really good record as well. I think they've hardly conceded a goal. So they're a team to look out for in the knockouts. But yeah, for Astana, I feel like you said, the kind of time difference, the long flight, it's an opportunity to rest players, to send out players that maybe might not get as much game time as we saw recently. Potentially an opportunity for Chilwell to finally get a fast start at Chelsea.
Do you think he will? Do you think he'll? I don't think he'll start him.
Who else would you start as a left back then? Do you play Cucurella?
Is Vega in the team still?
Vega, that's true actually. I forgot. He always escapes my mind, but yeah, Vega.
I think he might get the nod.
Yeah, other players like Ashampong, Tyreek George, Raksaki, I think, who's there, Keanu Dyer. There's a lot of players that have had like the kind of odd cameo occasionally. Potentially Chukwuemeka, who we just spoke about. It's a shame for Cesare Casadei that he's suspended for this one, because this would start and make an appearance for the club. But yeah, definitely an opportunity for us to rotate, and any player who's even maybe going to feature on the bench against against Brentford on Sunday, shouldn't even board the flight to Kazakhstan today. And a reminder that we're not actually playing in Astana, we're playing in Almaty, which is I think on the Chinese border, and minus 17 degrees right now out in Almaty. So yeah, some tough conditions for the players to adapt to, tough time difference as well to adapt to. But I think I read yesterday that Chelsea are hoping to not even get them to adapt to the local time zone.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a question of almost they get there, they train, they play the match, and I think they're straight back on a flight, almost like treating it like a 3:30 kickoff in the UK, which will be interesting. But yeah, really curious to see which players actually end up traveling. I think that announcement will be on the Twitters or the socials soon.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely an opportunity to rotate and rest.
Yeah, no, yeah, I think that's the plan. I think that's the main goal, is to not be out there as long as possible. Well, to be out there as little as possible. I think that was one of the things. I think Maresca said by the time that the game's been played, you almost miss you're almost missing out 24 hours, so to speak, because by the time you get there, you're 5 hours ahead, and when you come back, you're already into Friday. So, yeah, I think this will be one where you'll see a very youthful looking Chelsea squad. We've just spoken about Carney Chukwuemeka. I wouldn't be surprised to see him in there as well. We know that obviously Casadei suspended because of the Heidenheim game, so he won't be involved. We know that Fofana and James are out injured, so I'm not going to try and should we try and do a predicted lineup? I mean, I can try and go first. I'm trying to think of the players.
Share yours, because I think even with the goalkeeper, I'm struggling. Do you take Jorgensen? Do you play Bettinelli?
I'd take Jorgensen still. I'd take him.
Yeah.
I just don't think he's the Conference League goalkeeper. I don't think he's going to get much game time in the Premier League. So keep him fresh. You know, you never know. Sanchez may pick up an injury, so you want to keep your second choice goalkeeper a little bit fresh, and take him maybe just for the experience, if anything else. But I think in my backline, I'd go with, obviously we know Ashley and Pong's going to start. Dazazi and Tosin, I think, would be the two in centre back. Vega at left back. You'd have start Dewsbury-Hall. I think Carney Chukwuemeka will be in that midfield. I think we'll go with Tariq George on the right. Nkunku will be the 10. Neto will play because he's suspended for the Brentford game. And Margu will be up front.
So Neto over Mudryk, you reckon?
I think so because I think Neto will probably get, if not the full 90, he'll play a large chunk of that game, because he's not going to. Otherwise, he won't play till 2 weeks almost.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. I feel like sure we're going to make a lot of youth players travel, but whether they start or they start on the bench. And then we do have Shamrock Rovers, I think, next Thursday. So the games will come thick and fast. You can just see a question there. Does Mudryk play with Astana? I think he means
what do you think?
Mudryk play against Astana.
Yeah. What would you start him over Neto?
I would. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think he's only just recovered from quite a bad flu or illness. If he even has recovered, because he missed the last two games against who was it against? It was against Southampton and against Tottenham. So if he's fit, if he's recovered, I think I would start him over Neto. I think Neto, we need to manage his minutes, just putting one of those players that does have a bit of an injury record. And I know that he won't play against Brentford, but I would rather just rest him and not play him against Astana and not make him travel. So yeah, Mudryk for me on one wing with potentially who was the other name you mentioned? Tyree George on the other.
Tyree George, yeah. I think he'll get the nod as well. Just thinking of the bench, I mean, it will be a very youthful bench. There'll be obviously no Cole Palmer. Fofana, we know, he's not in the squad. Nicholas Jackson's not in the squad, is he? I don't think.
I think he's in the Conference League squad, but I don't expect him to travel. I
no,
really don't.
He won't travel. It's pointless taking players just for the sake of taking them. If they're not involved, or they're not due to be involved in the squad, then just leave them at home. Why take them? Well, yeah. So, but it goes back to what I said at the very start. This doesn't feel it feels almost like we're gearing up for a glorified pre-season friendly. Here's where Astana beat us 4-0. But yeah, I mean, look, prediction wise, I'm hoping for a convincing win, retain the 100% record in the Conference League. What's your thoughts going into it in terms of the performance, in terms of what you expect us to get, in terms of the goals? We've been actually doing quite well in terms of when we do our match day social images. We normally choose the goal scorer, we get him. So you give me a name this week, actually, and I'll try and make sure that they're on the match day image, and they should be going on to score for us.
Let's go with if you're able to get like the images drafted for the socials, let's go with Vega and Gui.
Vega.
That's the two kind of Vega and Gui as the two faces
Gui.
of maybe the.
You set myself
one
a
of those
challenge.
Yeah, I feel like Gui, because he looked quite sharp against High.
He did. He did.
He was unlucky not to score, and I feel like he's one that's maybe hoping to kind of start more games and get more of a run in.
It's got to be a bit more composed in front of goal. I think that's the only thing I'll say about him. He makes a beautiful run into the box, or he'll use the space that he's got ahead of him. But it's that last little thing where it's almost like a deer in headlights moment, where he just wants to get the shot off. It doesn't really compose himself before doing it. But he's young. I think that will come with time.
Yeah, but he's come from La Masia, where he's played with Lamine Yamal, he's played with Gavi, with Pedri, with all these amazing players. So yeah, you've got to hope we kind of saw something in him to bring him to Chelsea. But yeah, I'm going to go with Marc Gui to score and Chelsea to win 4-1.
4-1. Yeah, I don't think we'll keep a clean sheet. I agree. I do think the conditions... well, let me ask you a question. I feel like I'm at the press conference with Maresca this morning, but do you think the conditions will play a part in how we play?
It's bloody freezing in London right now, I'll tell you that. But yeah, actually, it's colder in Kazakhstan than in London. But yeah, the conditions will play a part, and the players will be their long sleeves, their thermal layers, their gloves. Yeah. And hopefully they have a good warm up.
Yeah, that's where I was leading to this, because I mean, you don't want any of your players like Christopher Nkunku, or I'm trying to think who else in that team. Well, maybe Nkunku's probably the biggest one, but you don't want anyone to get injured in a game where it's unnecessary to even potentially be playing them in the first place, when you've got quite a good youthful bench that should be able to beat them. But yeah, the conditions will, for me, play a massive part.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm not sure it's one of those pictures. I think I remember we played Ruben Kazan in the Europa League.
Oh, not those artificial.
Yeah, and it was an artificial pitch or something like that. So I'm kind of hoping Almaty doesn't have an artificial one. Or if it's not artificial, let's hope it's not frozen either.
Yeah, well, you'd hope not. But I think, yeah, I'm gonna match your 4-1, and I'm gonna go with 6-1. I think there'll be a hat trick in there somewhere. I'm not sure who, but I think we'll see the balloon. I think we'll see that balloon getting blown up at some point.
Yeah. I've got the fixture, the league table, the Kazakhstan Premier League as it's called. I think this is finished now, but Astana are finished second on 46 points, or are second. And then let me look at the Europa League.
Yeah, I'm just having a look at that now. Oh, well, they're 23rd.
Yeah, no excuses really.
Yeah, they've won 1 in 4. Yeah, their goal difference is -2. They've only scored 2 goals and they've conceded 4. So they can defend slightly, but I mean, have they come up with a test like Chelsea before? Probably not. Let's just not go out there and embarrass ourselves, I think is what I'm saying. I think we're top of the league for a reason, the Conference League. We've got the players that can go over there, whether that's a mixture of youth, a mixture of, the regular starters in the squad. They should be capable enough to go over there and get a result, and then we can fix our attention back to Sunday, 7 p.m. Against Brentford.
Is it 7 p.m. on Sunday?
Yeah.
Oof.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure it's 7 p.m. I'm going to double check that now before.
I think you might. Yeah, you're right. 7 p.m. Sunday. That's a new one.
Yeah, I'm guessing it's because of this game. And TV purposes as well. But I think because we're playing this game at 3:30 and the 5-hour time difference, kind of what Maresca was saying in the press conference today, leaves little time for any training session before Sunday's game. By the time you get back on the Friday, you've lost a lot of time already. So you've theoretically only got the Saturday to really prepare for the game on Sunday. So, and thankfully, 1, we're at home, but 2, we're only playing Brentford. by that I mean geographically. It's good that we're at home. We don't have to travel anywhere far. So
yeah, but one last thing I'll say is every single player that starts against Astana won't start against Brentford on Sunday. So it'll be like a completely different 11.
Yeah. So that's why I'm hoping we can just get this game out of the way, and we can look forward to Brentford on Sunday as well. But either way, 3 points is 3 points. We've got to get them wrapped up. I think their players will need to be wrapped up, but we'll be. I'm sure we're talking about another victory come tomorrow.
Absolutely, yeah. 3 points is 3 points, and hopefully, I think now we've secured qualification to the knockout. Let's hope we can secure automatic qualification.
Yeah, that's the next step now. But Theo, thank you as always. It's a pleasure. If you're new, as I said at the very start of this, make sure you subscribe. Make sure you like the video. Don't forget to leave your thoughts in the comments. Don't forget to do the quiz at the very start. Make sure you do better than I did in the quiz that we did at the start of this episode as well. So if you're on the audio version, head over to YouTube and do that there. And again, audio listeners, thank you very much. We'll be back very soon with another episode of From the Shed End. Until then, enjoy the weekend when you get to it.